Welcome to the Planet Amazon podcast with Adam Schafer, where we explore the world of Amazon and other e-commerce marketplaces. Join us as we delve into the latest strategies and tactics for successful selling on the world's largest online marketplace.
Hello, my name's Adam Schafer and welcome to the Planet Amazon podcast. As you can tell from the name, the Planet Amazon podcast is about all things Amazon and helping brands successfully navigate the $600 billion plus Amazon marketplace. On the show, we talk to both experts and the actual brands selling on Amazon to address important topics that can hopefully help others on their Amazon journey. While Amazon presents a huge opportunity for most, it is not without risk. It's complicated and it's ever changing, but we are here to help. One common issue that I find that resonates with most brands we talk to is the concept of brand protection. What is brand protection? And how do you actually protect your brand on Amazon? Well, joining us today on the podcast to help answer that question are Emmanuel Frost and Kyle Balcerek from Brand Alignment. Now, these guys are 100% focused on helping protect brands on Amazon and other marketplaces. We work closely with them and get to see them in action. Please welcome to the show, Emmanuel Frost and Kyle Balcerek.
Hey,
well,
thanks,
hello,
Adam.
guys.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today. Great to see you.
You as well.
Glad to be here.
You guys seem like you're ready to talk about brand protection. I mean, this is like one of the biggest topics we talk about, together, you and I, but every single brand we talk to has some type of issue with regard to protecting their brand on Amazon. And brand protection means different things to different people. Why don't you tell us what you think the world of brand protection is and means, and the different types of brand protection that you try to help these brands with?
Yeah. Well, I'll take my first whack at that, Adam. It's great to be on. Thanks for having us. It's great working with our partners that take good care of us. Your question's a little loaded. There's a lot of different brand protection means a lot of different things to a lot of different types of brands. We work with enterprise brands, small, medium, large consumer brands, and smaller brands, just starting out brands. Everyone has a different focus, what they think is going on, or what their immediate problem is. We tend to hear a lot of, someone's selling my products that I don't want them selling it, or who is this person? It's a common initial thing that we'll get, initial problem that we'll get, but usually the problems that we see tend to go a lot deeper, and requires a little bit more working from a consulting side and services side.
Great. But let's get, down to it. I mean, I think that's a pretty core answer, but for me, helping brands and working with brands, the number one thing we all hate together is brands that are selling our products, and they shouldn't be. They're unauthorized sellers. They're sitting there on Amazon. Maybe there's 5, 10, 15, 20 different sellers trying to sell the same product, and at the same time destroying the street price, bringing that minimum advertised price down to like low, and really hurting their channel integrity with their other dealers. Is that something that you guys are seeing and deal with on a regular basis?
Yeah. So it's just commerce at the end of the day. If I can get a product cheaper than what everyone else is selling it at, and I can get that product any which way I can, I'm going to do it, especially because it's not illegal. It's gray market. It's sort of gray area. It's not counterfeits. It's not even knockoffs. It's the actual authentic product that they're selling. So if the MAP price is $50 for a product, and I'm able to get this product, let's say overseas, for $15, and I can bring it to the US, and then after FBA fees, after shipping, after logistics, after everything, I can sell it for $35, and I could win that buy box from Amazon. Why wouldn't I do that? Especially if I have purchasing power, I can make $1 million PO, and I can turn that into $1.5 million. And then I could take that extra money I made and do it again and make an even larger PO. It makes sense. So we're more or less fighting economics because it's not illegal. So it opens up this interesting avenue where brand protection is almost something that brands now need to consider to sort of tighten up their processes in ways that maybe they didn't think about before. As sort of technology grows, and after COVID, more and more sales is going to Amazon and things like that, they almost need to tighten up their supply chain on every level to prevent all these little leaks that sort of attract people looking for ways to make money legally, although ethically gray. Um, it opens up new doors into what brands need to think about moving forward.
Okay. Okay. So staying with that, let's talk about, and I know a bunch. I don't want to say all the brand names to protect the innocent a little bit, but a brand comes to us and we work with you guys, and they are selling on Amazon. Maybe they're selling directly to Amazon. Maybe they're selling to Amazon and to us as an exclusive 3P for them. But their biggest issue is they are struggling with their channel because the minimum advertised price is being foiled by these, call it, unauthorized sellers. So now in comes you guys, brand alignment comes in, and how do you actually start it up, and what's your advice, and how do you get the ball rolling with these guys?
Well, it really depends on the brand, right? Everyone has different expectations when it comes to enforcing MAP. But, to your point, everyone does come first with how do we remove the unauthorized sellers so we can get to MAP, because there's always that but or that so. We need to get the unauthorized guys off. And that was, that goes to Emmanuel's point previously. Once we kind of get in there, we start with the unauthorized guys, and we'll start with sending messages, letting the whole channel know that, hey, we are not only are we monitoring MAP now, but we're looking. And once everyone knows that brand alignment's on the case and we're taking care of it, we're looking, they know the brands are going to know if they're not at MAP, and it's almost this big brother approach, unfortunately, we have to take. But it helps. The sharing of information helps everybody.
What I found is that the brands that we work with need to participate. They think it's like, hey, we want brand protection, give us brand protection, get these guys off, but it's a two-way street. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We can only, we're a member of the team. We're not out here performing this service on our own. I think that's important to differentiate not only brand alignment, but what a successful brand protection program really looks like. Is we need organization buy-in, and we can do a lot of the work, but we can't do all of the work. We're not having the hard conversations with your vendors. We're not having those conversations with distribution. We're advising the brand or the client in this case, on what, based on the data, what we're seeing, this is what would solve your problem. And we try to take a very objective point of it. And that's really where Emmanuel, my day-to-day is more effective communication, kind of, directing the overall program. But Emmanuel's really who is the one who rolls his sleeves up and gets in deep consulting and problem solving with the brands. And then we build out services around those. So, I would actually defer to him to kind of answer, a little bit more on that.
So Kyle mentioned advisors. At the end of the day, we're just advisors. We're going to give you all the information that we have so that the brand can make the best decision to help improve the problem. We can't force anything, and brands are very complex systems with a lot of different decision makers. And maybe what we present is a solution for this problem, but it might not be a solution for a larger problem that we're not involved in. So there's a lot of complex things going on. So at the end of the day, like Kyle said, we would need buy-in from the highest levels, so that conflicts of interest don't pop up, which sometimes happen when you're talking about difficult supply chain decisions that need to be made with certain suppliers or distributors that might be diverting. So at the end of the day, all we can really do is advise and we can't do it all ourselves. We need the company to work with us and what works best for the company to solve the problem at hand.
And that's a great point. But the data that you provide is unbelievable. I mean, the stuff that we see that we share with you guys is great. And maybe you want to talk a little bit about what kind of data is available that you're able to share with the brands to try to help educate them on what's really going on Amazon and in their channel.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We get a little bit involved here. We forget about the back end systems that we've built over the years and, continue to use to maintain our solution. So, brand alignment, we've been, I think it's 5.5 years, the idea, 5 years we're coming up on here. We've started as a map monitoring company, and then the need for unauthorized sellers has kind of grown, and we built our specialty around that. But the entire time we've self-sustained and built a process and a suite of software that kind of allows the data to come to you, whether that's reporting, we're doing inventory, buy box data, we're doing data on unauthorized sellers, how often they win that buy box, not only today, but over the last 30 days, how many times have they hit the buy box in the last, say on a 12-hour basis for the last 30 days. There's a lot of data that focus on the buy box, but also focus on the unauthorized sellers. Who are they? What's their, company name, email? Those things are pretty basic among providers, but we try to automate those things so that it becomes just the expectation. So the expectation is to log in and see all the stuff that, of course, we need. Map price monitoring. That's all just default for us. It just comes with the service, right? We started off only doing map monitoring, but nobody only needs map monitoring. Or if you do only need map monitoring, you have a really, really well put together supply chain, and you've already been putting a lot of attention towards fixing the issue at hand. So the map monitoring piece, is a foundation cornerstone of our service and always has been. But we're doing, special API integrations with various marketplaces, not just Amazon. We're doing advanced Amazon business data that is burdensome, to say the least. You name it, we build a custom suite. So if a brand comes to us with a problem, we might not have it. Within 3 to 4 weeks, we're building that, not only that data system, but then an enforcement system around it, or a reporting system around it for the brand. And so these things kind of just become reality as you kind of log into our system. But it's really the consulting and the analysis and the helping you move forward as an organization and helping you solve these problems as a collective mind between not only us, but all our partners that we work with, like you, and all the brands that we work with. We won't necessarily tell other brands intricate details, but we might know a path forward based on something else we've seen in another client. So the kind of the group mind think that represents brand alignment. I mean, we've found unauthorized sellers, and we know who they are. We know who they were, and we have a historical record of everyone that we've ever seen. And that database becomes very powerful. It just comes with the territory that the data that you get is going to be good and is very customizable to your needs as a brand.
And to piggyback off of what Kyle just said, so we use data for monitoring. We have our internal databases. We use data in another manner for investigative purposes. So brands will come to us and they'll say, okay, we have a big problem. This seller is taking up an enormous amount of buy box, millions of dollars worth of inventory. We don't know where they're getting it from, because these are global enterprises where maybe $1 million in inventory could be coming from any continent or any location. So sometimes it's difficult to identify them because these sellers have a very large interest, not just for themselves, but for all their employees, to keep the source of where they get their products as hidden as possible. That's their biggest secret, because their source is not just worth the $1 million of inventory they have in possession. It's worth all the future purchases they can make. So if they make $1 million order every quarter, and this source lasts for years, and you can continue to resell this product, that the knowledge of where they get their product from could be worth tens of $1 millions to these sellers. and to the ecosystem sort of built around them. There's all sorts of wholesale distributors. There's a whole ecosystem built on gray market. So they have some of the most cutting edge techniques to keep their identities hidden, hiding company names, very advanced stuff that I don't want to give too much detail into. And when people are going to that level, that they're spending their entire days thinking about how can I hide who I am, sometimes one of the few things, some of the few tools and best tools that we have is data. Because data sort of uncovers everything. Because while they're sitting around thinking about human details, they're not thinking about these sort of system details where they buy so much inventory that they naturally float to the top of all sales lists. Ideas like this, I don't want to get into too much detail, but sometimes you can't hide from the data no matter what you do. And then even if you try to hide from the data, there's still ways that AI will uncover things that the human mind can't cover up. So long-term data is one of our best tools to figure out how this product is moving all over the world.
Hey guys, that was awesome. So, let's change the topic just a little bit because, I run into these unauthorized sellers, and I always talk to the brands and say, look, if you could just stop selling them through your distributors because they're not adding any value. They're ghost posting your stuff. They're not investing in your inventory. We've purchased, $100,000, $500,000, $1 million worth of your inventory. We're shipping it Prime. We have it up at Amazon, and you got 20 or 30 other sellers just posting stuff from distribution and making a mockery of your product. How do you deal with that? Like, what do you say to the brand to help them alleviate this problem?
It's a toughie.
Come on.
No, I mean, there's different strategies, Adam. So ghost posters, right? These are the people that are, posting, but just drop shipping or don't have the product at all. I mean, it's the same, it comes down to the same, essential thing that we do is we advise, right? So we'll come into you and say, hey, these people are likely getting it from distribution. We did a couple test buys. All the orders are coming from X distributor. You need to have a discussion with your partner and put a policy in place that, stops this kind of behavior, because Amazon's not going to stop it, right? We can't take the listing down from Amazon. That's not going to benefit anybody. And, there's black hat tactics that, have been tried again and again, but never proven to work. Takedowns, or, you can't take down just people selling from a distributor. I mean, it's allowed on Amazon. So, it comes down to the same thing that we do. We advise, we isolate. So we'll look at, sale lists, and we'll do our investigation. We'll tie it together. It really just comes down to our team managing the service for the brand. Hey, we found these 6 guys, they can't purchase anymore. Okay. We go in there, we have a discussion, and we get it done. I mean, yeah, the brand has to have the ability to do that type of thing. Some smaller brands might not, or we have to get the distribution agreement renegotiated. So there's little tidbits, there's always issues, but overall, it just comes down to another service that we can just audit and check and support the brand on as another member of the team.
And once you guys get involved with the brand and they're participating with you guys and taking your advice and, talking to their distributors and putting maybe some harder policies in place, how successful have you been at being able to get, call it the bandits or the unauthorized guys off their listings?
I mean, I can't even think of an instance where we've failed. That was anything other than, well, we're not willing to go that far, right? You talk to the distributor, and if there's a problem, well, it's the brand isn't able to say, hey, stop selling my product, and they have the choice. Well, if you'd like to stop, then you're going to have to make a choice on who your distribution partner is. If they're not willing to afford you selective distribution. So we won't sell to parties who are hurting your brand and they're not willing to work with you that way. Then we as brand alignment would say, well, it doesn't sound like you're working with the right distribution partner. Might want to work with the partners that do afford you those options if they're having that kind of problem.
And keep in mind, we don't start by directly going to the distributor. We'll have cease and desist messaging. We will contact these sellers, every last one of them, to let them know that they're not authorized to sell on Amazon by the brand. And that removes a lot of these sellers. And some of them know that it's easy to find out who they are and they don't want to risk their relationship with a large distributor. And they're going to remove themselves. So there's going to be a lot of sellers, even if you have a brand that maybe doesn't want to cut anybody off, which happens, or maybe they have a distributor who says, you know what, we're not going to cut anybody off for you because you're a brand new brand or you're too small. We still see effective removal rates just by our initial cease and desist process, electronic, physical, as well as other things that we can do. Sometimes just the fact that we've identified who they are through investigation, even though they think they're hiding their identity, and sending a letter to an address that they think that you're never going to be able to find will be enough to spook them without having to go through distribution. So I don't want brands to think that the only way this works is if your distributor plays along. We have many different techniques proven over the years in pretty much every industry that sells on e-commerce on Amazon that we can get good removal rates through a reactive approach, which is enforcement, and a proactive approach, which is through supply chain, cutting people off, preventative type of work. Because in general, a phrase I like to use is if they already have the product in their hands, you're sort of at their will. All you could do is play the fear game with them. And sometimes it's going to work. But if they say, you know what, I don't care, they hire an attorney who specializes in protecting them, all you can really do is let them sell out and focus on where that leak is coming from and plugging that up.
But finding some of those guys, you said you were able to find them because, like you said, we find that we can get the majority of the, call it smaller players off, but there's these professional sellers on Amazon that, have been around for a while and, that they're hard to find. They have lots of different names, but you guys have been able to find these guys. And I think getting that letter to them in their hiding place is enough to wake them up, I think, sometimes. And that's what you're finding too.
Yeah, it's like anything else is the 80-20. So 80% of the problem is going to come from 20% of the sellers, and 80% of the sellers make up 20% of the problem. They only have a few units. So we tend to know who the biggest problems are just from the number of brands we work with. So say a brand comes to us in apparel, there are certain players in that field that, I mean bad actors, where we already know who they are and we know where they get their product from. We know which continent they get their product from. We know exactly which distributors they get their product from. And it's more or less just informing them. Or we even find other distributors that they get their product from, which we weren't aware of previously. So that's where our database comes in, where we help. It's sort of like a knowledge base that we can then share with a new customer of ours to sort of welcome them to sort of brand protection and say, okay, these are the people that you should not be selling to under any circumstances. These are the people who you can sell to with extreme caution. And then these are green light. We've never had a problem with them. And sort of putting systems into place, because there's a lot of brands who are aware of these bad actors, but very few that know where the product is coming from, where we already have that information and we share that information with our clients, and that any new brands that come in that industry, we're going to open up that knowledge base to them so that they can then make the right decisions to help fix the issue that they're dealing with.
I mean, that certainly sounds like a pretty good approach for sure. And it's definitely helped us in the past. So just changing it up a little bit here, just to try and identify, you guys taught me that there's not just one kind of violator. You guys talk about like 8 different types of violators. Like who are these? Try to classify them for us.
Yeah, Kyle, you want me to take this?
Yeah, no, well, we can. This is like kind of what the tool we use to categorize brands, right? So there are 8, maybe more types of different violators we find out there. You got your hustle culture guys that are scrubbing through Amazon bargain bins, arbitrage sellers. I think we have on the list mom and pop shops, right? They have a decent, little store, and maybe they're not doing the amount of volume that they say they're doing. You got your huge, sideways distributors. There's all different types of people. But really what we use that tool, if you've seen on our website, 8 types of violators, is it's really what types of violators are you dealing with as a brand, and how does that help us kind of design the services that you need. So you come to us and it's like, okay, I'm having problems with, bargain bin guys and, a couple here, there, onesie, twosie sellers. Well, I'm not going to sit here and sell you the full package. Maybe you just need our messaging, right? Maybe it's not that big of a deal. And, we don't need to analyze full in, all your data from top to bottom. Maybe it's just, a lighter solution that'll get the job done. But if you come to us and you say, well, I'm having problems with, we identify you're having problems with the 7 out of the 8. Well, we're going to have to put more services in play for, if we have multiple services, sometimes for each type of violator. So it really helps us customize a solution when we first meet a brand to just get the conversation started and working on it. It ranges. Those are just the common types that we find, but then there's small segments here and there that are new, right? We're seeing this new kind of seller, which is the crowdsource, which we may be updating that sheet soon. I mean, it's I think 4 years old.
What's the crowdsource?
Well, that's just the newest type of violator, where it's ordinary, everyday people buying it and sending it to a warehouse, and then the warehouse is the one selling it on Amazon.
So the motive is credit card points. So they create these marketplaces where they say, okay, we have a warehouse in a state that has no state tax, like Delaware. Mm-hmm. And they say, okay, here's a deal of a product that we want, a popular electronics or whatever that's on a promo. Right now it's let's say it's $3.99. It's a good deal. Buy from this marketplace that has quantity limits, so you can only buy 2 of them. Okay. I get as many people as possible to buy it and send it to my warehouse. In exchange, I'm going to give you your money back, sometimes even less, but it helps you get a lot of credit card points, or helps you achieve whatever limit, you need to spend $10,000 in 3 months. It helps you get your hotel points or whatever. So this is actually very popular. They can get hundreds and hundreds of people all over the country to buy thousands of units and ship it to their warehouse with margin to spare. So they can then turn around and sell it on Amazon, or sell it internationally somewhere that doesn't have those deals because of arbitrage.
I get it. I didn't know that one. Thanks, guys.
It's growing. It's growing.
Crowdsourcing arbitrage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's growing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Stay away from our stuff. Awesome. So what other types? We talked about the mom and pop, and now this crowdsourcing. What other types of violators?
I mean, there's parallel importers. There's liquidation lots. People go on liquidation.com or Bstock, and they'll buy gigantic pallets of returns or overstock from Walmart or Target or Best Buy or Costco. And they'll go through the product. They'll throw out anything that's not in good shape, or even if it is in bad shape, they'll just sell it as new. So it's used, sold as new, and that's a bad customer experience for the brand. So there's liquidation lot buyers, in which case brands need to see who's liquidating, what their distribution agreements look like, and go from there. There's ones and twosies where, you know, someone got a gift for Christmas, they don't want it anymore, so they sell it on Amazon. You get a few of those. Mom and pop shops are, say, somebody in Kansas, they have a shoe store, and maybe things aren't going so well in brick and mortar, so they decide to sell on Amazon, and they end up buying thousands of pairs of shoes that doesn't quite fit the bill of what you'd expect for one retail storefront to have in a certain zip code, and you can catch them that way. Those are relatively easier, less sophisticated type schemes to investigate. You have parallel importers, which hide their identity very well. There's groups, they talk. They, once one learns something, they tell everybody else. They have sort of news roundups that they send each other of, this is what's going on at Amazon. If your account has been suspended, these are tactics to get it unsuspended. If anyone comes after you for a false trademark violation, these are the attorneys to contact. If there's any deals, they'll sort of let everyone know, hey, there's a deal going on this website, take advantage of it. Sometimes these are paid groups. We know that there's secret websites out there that manage the flow of very large quantities of inventory. So there's also
creepy, like the dark web or something.
It might be.
Sort of. Yeah, this goes on. And there's money to be made. You know, this exists because they're making good money doing this. And it's, you know, like Kyle said, some of it is hustle culture. People just go into TJ Maxx or Marshalls and with a fob scanner and just scanning the UPC, and they have some software that checks on Amazon to see if the margins make sense after FBA fees, you know, FBM or FBA, to see if they can make a profit on it. But that's very time consuming. But that is something that people do. Or they buy pallets and they make YouTube videos, or they sign up for an influencer who teaches them how to do it. Sometimes we get the same cease and desist message response from 15 different sellers, just copied and pasted from some influencer who told them what to say. So there's a whole ecosystem out there. And at the end of the day, this exists because all these methods exist and there's money to be made. So as you sort of close one avenue, they start brainstorming and thinking, hey, okay, I can't buy more than 2 units from Amazon.com. What can I do to get more product, as much product as possible? You know, okay, what if I get a lot of people to do it? Okay, but how can I motivate them? Credit card points. And these ideas are sort of invented. It's a good method I think of is like in war, offense and defense. As defense gets better, offense has to improve. And as offense gets better, defense has to improve. So it's a constant kind of struggle. So there's constantly new things being invented. And then there's things such as stolen goods, the old off the back of the truck, that still exists. Burglaries from storefronts anywhere. We tend to see this more on the West Coast in California or Nevada. There's many different methods, and based on our initial analysis of their sort of e-commerce landscape, we can devise a strategy to say, okay, most of your product problem, 80% of it is coming from parallel importers, or it's coming from arbitrage sellers, or it's, hey, you have a buying group problem. And then we sort of craft a strategy around that. Instead of sort of aimlessly doing everything, we're very targeted, and we try to be very efficient in what we think is going to work for that brand. And, you know, I work with Kyle very closely to sort of devise a strategy for that brand that makes sense in timelines that make sense. And we do our best to communicate that to the brand.
And okay. And what's your thoughts on brand registry? Does that help brands protect their brand? I mean, we're a big believer in brand registry, but how good is it at helping brands stop other brands or other companies from selling on their listings?
Well, yes, we think every brand should have brand registry. But how effective is it from removing sellers? You know, white hat, not you know, there's black hat ways. You know, everyone knows the old takedown approach. So you're going to get yourself sued. You know, there's people using transparency for it, which isn't on the book. You're not supposed to be using, you know, the transparency through brand registry to get sellers down. And, you know, there's people who try that approach, and, you know, there's some hit or miss. We don't do that because it's, you know, we believe in a different approach, taking a different approach, but that is something that brands will do. But overall, you know, it's good for maintaining the used as new product being sold as the correct product. But as far as if that product is correct, it leaves little room to fix. So as long as they're selling the right product, brand registry isn't going to do any good for you as far as from a brand protection perspective.
When it's used the right way, it's very effective. So if you have a counterfeit product, brand registry it's a godsend. You have someone selling a knockoff on your listing, brand registry is just what you need. Sometimes there's policy violations, not as described, used as new, like Kyle said. Those methods work as well. I think a big problem in our industry and a lot of mistakes that brands make and some brand protection providers is they overuse it or use it the wrong way. And that way is to file false trademark complaints on authentic product. There's entire niche of attorneys now who specialize in protecting gray market sellers who had authentic product taken down with false trademark complaints. And, you know, we see it all the time. I know a lot of brands come to Kyle and say, hey, you know, look what we got from so-and-so attorney. You know, and, you know, we're beginning to recognize most of them. It tends to be a certain group of attorneys who specialize in this. And you know what? What they're saying is true. You can't do that. And we do know of brands that have been successfully sued and lost for a good amount of money because they took down a listing and they refused to reinstate it when it was an authentic product. They couldn't prove it was counterfeit. The seller was able to prove it's authentic because they had invoices from some authorized distributor. So brands have to be very careful not to file false trademark complaints because it's very tempting. You have a huge problem, you're bleeding money, you don't know where the product is coming from. Someone says just do whatever you can, and you just file a counterfeit complaint. The seller is gone, everyone's happy, but within a week or two, you're going to get a very unfriendly notice from an attorney if they're a serious seller, and all the serious sellers are lawyered up. So my thoughts on brand registry is that it's extremely effective when used the right way, but it's also it can also be used the wrong way, and it's more dangerous than ever to use it the wrong way. It could be very costly to use it the wrong way.
So to recap, brand protection is not a one size fits all by any means for the brand. Each brand is different, right? And you kind of come up with a strategy for each brand based on what their overall distribution strategy looks like, what their internal strategy is, and how far they really want to go to protect their brand and keep their channel clean. Would you agree?
I think that's a great summary. Absolutely.
And what's your, getting to the end of this, what's your advice, just your elevator pitch advice to brands that are on Amazon today with regard to brand protection? What's Kyle and Emmanuel's advice to brands out there?
Well, give us a call. But no, I think just at least look, right? If it's a big issue, a small issue, a medium issue, I think take a look under the hood, see what's going on, educate yourself, understand what kind of negative effects, if negative effects are happening from either your brand integrity, your brand perception, your price. Is the erosion going to hurt you 5 years from now? Take a holistic look, and when you're doing so, include the brand protection type topics in that look, and consider them for your future plans, because as the supply chain in this world gets crazier and crazier, and as brick and mortar environment changes and everything goes more online, Our services are going to keep the, evolving, but it's really one of these things where you have to just consider it. Everyone has to consider it. And then, if you do think it's a problem, definitely consult an expert before making your first move. I've seen strategies go wrong from the very outset, and just go off the complete wrong side when it could have been resolved with, a much easier solution. So my advice is just, give us a call, give any provider a call, an expert, lawyer, anyone you trust. But don't make any rash decisions on what you think is best until you really assess all sides.
And I think something else, a lot of kind of old school brands, they when they think of gray market, they think it's sort of not possible to solve. They've sort of given up on it since the 70s, 80s, 90s. They think that the only thing left they can do is sort of educate their consumers on who to buy from, who's authorized. There's definitely some very large brands who sort of think this way. We're finding that most problems can be solved. Generally, the larger the problem, more work needs to be done, but there are ways to find out where this product is coming from without always needing to get legal involved. And we're finding that most problems, no matter how large, can be fixed in gray market as long as it's done the right way and nothing rash is done, like Kyle said, and it's done intelligently in an organized manner, methodical. Most problems can be solved. Not always 100%, especially if you're a gigantic brand. You're never going to stop every single onesie, twosie who's finds something on the shelf and wants to sell it. But we're able to solve most major problems to get even enterprise brands down to that 97, 98, 99% removal rate. If you get full buy-in on the C-level, you reduce whatever conflicts of interest you may have with sales or so on. And a company decides to do this the right way and has good advisors, most gray market problems can be solved nowadays. I just want that to be clear because I know there kind of is an old school mentality that there's nothing we can do.
No, I mean, we hear it, we see it. I agree. I think that's a great message. And I guess the big message is Amazon does not need to be the Wild West for brands. You can control your brand, you can protect your brand, and it's incredibly important to protect your brand on Amazon. You don't want to have your brand deteriorate for no good reason other than you think you're getting a few more sales. You can have great sales on Amazon and you can protect your brand integrity, your pricing, and your other dealers that have been loyal to you for so many years. So, so important to understand this and do that exploration. With that, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you guys? You guys are awesome.
We're very responsive to inbound leads. So if you want to just go to brandalignment.com and fill out a contact request right on our main page, one click, do a chat, something like that. It's direct to our inbox. So, we'll all see it. You can pick up the phone and give us a call, anything like that, or reach out to someone, one of our partners like yourself and, find your way. So we're pretty easy to get a hold of if you reach out. That's for sure.
That's great. Well, and talking to us, PhelpsUnited.com, you can always find us and we can always connect you with brand alignment and brand protection programs. So thank you guys very much. I really, really appreciate you being on our show today. Such an important topic, and thanks for covering it. I mean, I know we could talk all day about it, but I think we covered most of the bases, and let's see where it takes us. Well, thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.